Hello once again, this is Robert James Fremantle, and in this one we're going to try and answer some quick fire type questions here of a philosophical nature, the sort of things that you could meditate on or whatever. I've just found a website here, operationmeditation.com. Discover 65 deep philosophical questions, and I thought if we do these in sets of 10, or at least I'll do the first 10. I haven't pre-read them, so I don't know what we're dealing with here. And then you'll get my quick gut answer and hopefully a quick fire version, because it's so many. Just sort of what I think suddenly on the spot, and see if you agree or not. Let's see. Alright, let's go in on this. So first up, is it worse to fail at something or never attempt it in the first place? Alright, well that depends on whether you regret having done it in post. So if you need to actually look at the mistakes you've made previously in the past, okay, all the bad things that have happened, and ask yourself, have you actually learned something important from them? Have they shaped you in an important way? I can answer those questions and say yes, mistakes that I've made in the past have brought me to an understanding, and they have made me who I am now at this point. If you didn't make those mistakes, you'd be a different you, one that you'd imagine would perhaps be better off in some way. But it is, again, it's only imagination. You don't really know that. So, is it worse to fail at something? No, it's not. It's terrible to never attempt it in the first place, because I think that looking back on failure isn't as bad as looking back on never trying. And that's the quick answer, really. Number two, if you could choose just one thing to change about the world, what would it be? I would enlighten the human species so that everybody could think deeply enough to move us forward as a race, because at the moment we are completely unable to do that, and it is halting our progression. Greed is a severe issue, and it's making us step on top of each other for short-term gains, when in actual fact we need each other, and we need to work together to move forward. We are a social creature, we are a storytelling creature, we need people. Okay, number three, to what extent do you shape your own destiny, and how much is down to fate? Alright, the butterfly effect, you've heard of that, for example. The smallest action can have deep resulting reactions in a far-flung manner that we could never have initially conceptualized. So, to what extent do we control our own destiny? Well, it is it's elusive to attempt to find a figure to put to that, because it will differ from individuals, so you can't put a figure on it. I'm sure if you were brilliant enough to come along and actually measure it, then you could come up with a measurement for each individual. So to some extent both, dependent on the individual, because all of the best intentions in the world won't get you anywhere if other people around you bring you down or alter it in some way. And a wonderful viewpoint into that is Socrates as example, where he was forced to drink hemlock and be poisoned, and you see, all of his own destiny, his great mindset, that was altered by other people around him, regardless of how many times and how much personal growth he was personally imbued with, and how many sensible words he'd stated. Could he have controlled his destiny to work in a different way? Possibly again, but we are all action and reactionary state creatures. So whatever degree of action we put out would create reactions, reverberations, and then we have to deal with the consequences of those reverberations. So it is actually a conversational matter, just the state of everything, even war, even the act of someone killing you. You know, if you say the right words to an opponent, they may show you mercy, and then you have then controlled your own fate, for example. Alright, number 4. Does nature shape our personalities more than nurture? Well, now, we can't go ahead and say that nature is completely and wholly important by that, because you'd have mass murderers, children being victimized and criminalized. They'd have some sort of pre-crime unit on them, like Minority Report, wouldn't they? It doesn't happen that way, and therefore we'd have to go along somewhat more with nurture. So I'd say probably the controlling element is nurture. However, nature can put some certain tendencies in place, and we know that to be the case because there are genetic conditions that are passed down through parents and such. And because of this, because of we have congenital proof of pre-existing medical conditions, we can then state that there are certain complexities to the mind, irregularities in which, for instance, mental illness might come about, and then you could state that mental illness can shape your personality. Even, in fact, a physical condition could shape your personality. So, yes, it carves an initial shape, but a very rough one. And then nurture will either knock that even clearer into place, so that it becomes a copy of the original. Think of it in terms of sculpting a statue. Or nurture will craft it into an attempt at making the statue into a different person. Alright, it was originally going to look like Elvis, and then nurture comes along and, you know, it knocks the quiff off and it does these other things, and it makes the face a bit smaller and maybe goes in and puts a moustache in, and these sort of things. So yeah, that's the answer to that. It's a complex answer in of itself, but these are really deep questions, so they need answering properly, I think. Number 5. Should people care more about doing the right thing or doing things right? Now, again, the right thing is impossible to define, because the right thing is wholly dependent on your point of view. If you are fighting for your country and you have to kill an enemy soldier that's in front of you, is it the right thing to do that? Or is it the right thing to spare him? It could be both. He might kill you if you don't kill him. Is that the right thing? And if you've killed your enemy soldier and he's only enlisted because he's been forced to as well by his dictator general, then is it the right thing to kill him? And it's not the right thing for him if you put a bayonet through him, is it? It's not the right thing for him. It might be for you, or it might not be. So, no, you shouldn't care about doing the right thing, because you are chasing an unattainable ideal. There is no right thing. So you have to attempt to do things right. And in so doing, you leave at least a correct body of evidence and legacy that the human race can learn and expand from and make its own decisions from. Because we are all about legacy, aren't we? We're all about that which has come before. We take an element of it and progress it forward into a new sphere. So if you do things right, you will aid the human populace at best. Stop thinking in terms of what your own state, what your own country, what your own religion want from you, and think deeper than that. Right, number 6. What one piece of advice would you offer to a newborn infant? Wow, that's a biggie, isn't it? Well, you certainly wouldn't want to burden them with the fact of mortality. They have to try and enjoy their youth. It's fundamental to one's development, certainly. I would say that regardless of the advice would be, regardless of how many other distractions occur in your early formative life, you must attempt to educate yourself as best as possible, because at your youngest years you have the best capacity to learn, and you have the best chance of becoming someone that can shape this world, change it into something important, change it into something that means something to you, leave again a legacy. So I'd say learn through education, become the best version of you that you can become. There will be time for everything else afterwards. There will always be time for everything else. And don't make important decisions when you're young, because for every 7 odd years or so you'll change completely into a different person, and you'll have completely different opinions on things, on some drastic things. You will feel the change happening. You'll think it can't happen, and I promise it will. You will become a new person, and you'll look back on the old person and you won't recognize them. So much so that if you were to go back and actually even meet yourself, you'd probably be irritated by that person. So consider that. Number 7. Where is the line between insanity and creativity? Look, there doesn't have to be a line. Within insanity, you can find great creativity. And insanity is just a different set of wirings. And it's not even necessarily wirings that have gone wrong, that you could say. I mean, love in of itself is a temporary form of insanity. It's the area of the brain that deals with problems of insanity, and there is a lot of creativity that takes place as a result of love, but then there's a lot of other bad things that happen as a result of love. I think that wherever you find the muse, which I believe comes from energy, really, energy from the subconscious self, but energy to actually apply that, to actually tap into that, and it doesn't matter whether you're insane or not. So people might call you insane for being creative, but you might come up with something that is so creative that it is insane. Draw no lines. Don't bother, because an attempt to label someone as insane could come about in a form of misunderstanding through your own ignorance, and you would then prove to be the foolish party and the person you're condemning to be truly the great mind, and you become the idiot instead. Number 8. What is true happiness? Well, it depends on the individual, but true happiness isn't something that you just attain. It's something that we seek, but we don't necessarily find as a result of seeking it. We sometimes find a form of result that is pleasing to us, that is what we suspected would be the result. We could succeed in something and do well, but very often that result differs in how it feels to us, so how we might have imagined it would have. And because of this, we have to be careful about what we call happiness. You know, do we say that that money is happiness. We can't start stating that things are happiness, can we? That love is happiness. It's about whatever makes you glow inside. All right, feel a sense of security and well-being within yourself. And if you can attain that, it doesn't matter what your status is in life, that is true happiness and inner glow. And you need to, if happiness, finding happiness is what you want, then you need to find that inner glow. Then you'll know you've got it. And if that means being poor, that actually will make you happy, then that is true happiness, as one example. Number 9, what things hold you back from doing the things that you really want to? Well, now, this is a hell of a thing, because human nature, by design, is actually quite a monstrous creature. We have the fight or flight mechanism, don't we? In which, we don't like something, so we'd either run away from it or punch it one. So when we have our boss telling us do this, do that, and he's being a right git or whatever, the response you're supposed to give as a human, that you've been made to give, is to either run away and never go back to work again, say, no, I quit, like that, because he's doing your head in, or punch him and take over and say, no, shut up, you bloody annoying me. But no, because we ignore both of those natural needs of a human being, we suffer from a kind of stress that our ancestors didn't have to put up with. They would have suffered with, immediate stresses, but we suffer from long-term stresses that riddle and addle and ruminate on and on and on, and disturb our sleep and so forth. There goes the phone behind me. Good job. Anyway, and it's those stresses that will eat away at you, and we are being held back from doing the things we want to do as human beings all the time, every day. So I would say that society, the laws of society, what makes reality and society function. We have a set of laws in place that you have to live by. They attempted to do it with moral law before, when religion was even more important thing, and that held people back from doing a lot of the things they maybe wanted to do, or some of those things they wanted to do were perhaps considered depraved. If we look at the Romans and the hedonistic tendencies of some of them, then we will look at people doing what they want to do in a natural state when the supporting power allows them to. So what holds you back? Well, the rules of everything else around you, and how far you're going to buck from that is going to depend on how far you conflict with everything around you. But ultimately, everybody at the moment is in a current state of at least some degree of unhappiness. You may not feel that you yourself are unhappy, but you need only look around you at nearly everyone else, and you will see that they are far more dissatisfied and unhappy with life and the universe around them and the state that they feel trapped in right now. And so we as a species, we as earthlings on this planet, are communally being held back from the things that we not only want to do, but the things that we truly need to do to progress forwards. And finally, number 10, what makes you you? Well, the answer to that one is completely self-evidencing. It is determined by who you are at this moment in time. What makes you you? You are a state of being in its present, you are prone to change. It will happen, as explained before. Every several years you will change. You will change physically. Your body will attempt to replicate its cells, but kind of like in a bad copying Xerox way, photocopier copying the photocopy rather than the original, and our cells will age, and we'll wrinkle, and things will start to not work as they necessarily should work, and our bodies start breaking down. That's a state of what makes us who we are as well. But this effect has a great spiritual effect on us too. It changes us who we are fundamentally as a person. So then I suppose you have to start taking a step back and looking at the overall tendencies of yourself, what you've done over your life. And even that could have been a state of nurture instead of nature. But whichever it is, the end result and the way you've acted, if you can find a common thread that you've continued with all through your life since you were young. So for instance, maybe you were always a natural born entertainer. So for instance, entertaining might be one of the things that actually makes you who you are. And it sometimes is the case of, he even did it as a kid. He was doing, he was always going to be an entertainer, or such and such was used to do dances and sing and these kind of things as a child even. Those are the things that make you fundamentally who you are. What your natural innocent behaviour, what you veer towards, and hopefully the world doesn't break that down too much and take you off of the course of perhaps what you should be. So just remember the main element that has held throughout your life, and just think that whatever you do by definition is then you, in a self-evidencing manner. But also be careful of that, because it isn't just the actions that you take that define who you are, because you can act out of something, you can act against that which you think, and then that which you think is surely more who you are rather than by your actions. It's not something you tell of another person. It's something that you have to self-evaluate. Alright, that's 10 of them answered. It's gone on for like 23 minutes, so that's pretty deep, and we got to grips with it there. Thanks for staying with us here. Leave some comments underneath if this meant anything to you. Maybe we'll come back and do some more another time. I'll see you.